And welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. We're making, as you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, butter beer, like as in the Harry Potter movies. But this is actually historically a real thing. When I saw the Harry Potter films, and Ron and Harry and them would sit there with their mug and drink butter beer, I remember thinking, ew, butter in beer? That's gross. Ugh. And then we were watching, somebody in Europe went to one of the Harry Potter amusement park things there, Potter World, and he had the butter beer in like a little tub that you can eat with a spoon, and I was thinking, why would people do that? Why would anybody want the flavor of butter and beer mixed together? Ugh. However, then somebody pointed out, no. It's butterscotch. That's the flavor of the beer in the books. It's butterscotch beer. They just call it butterbeer. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm curious to see what that flavor would be like, and maybe they sell such a thing somewhere. But butterscotch beer at least sat in my head a little bit better. So then we were watching various things. Now, I've been subscribed to James Townsend and Son, and I've mentioned their channel a few times. They do great recipes and food stuffs of kind of the colonial early American era, like the 18th and 17th century. They occasionally dip into older in the past stuff. And I don't know if it was a movie or a video recommended because I was watching James Townsend or not, but there's another channel that does kind of the same thing, but even further back in time. The channel is called the Anne Boleyn Files, and it covers kind of the Tudor era. And there was a lady who just recently, I'll put a link below, did a recipe. She does a few. Her name is Claire Ridgway. She did a video that I just suddenly thought, oh my God, this was a real thing. Apparently, in the Tudor period, and in her video, I won't go into the whole detail, because she goes into great detail about this recipe, its history, etc. But apparently in this recipe from 1594, they actually had a warmed up beer that they would add various spices and cloves to, which we're going to be doing. And it's actually, you add butter to it. Like, it's a buttered beer. It's a real thing that once existed in history. So I just thought, okay, we got to try this out. Now here's our ingredients. So we've got some English strong ale, proper stuff. We've got some cloves, some ginger, and some nutmeg. We're going to need the yolks of 5 eggs, some brown sugar, and of course, butter. Unsalted stuff. We are going to be putting butter into beer. Let's try this out. The first step, we got to get the beer into the pot. Pouring slowly and carefully. Now, Claire's recipe calls for each of these to be about 500 mils, like a total of 1.5 liters. These are actually 640. It was the closest size I could find. Since I have a spare a little bit. I've never tried this, so I just want to see what's the normal flavor like. Very nice. Cheers. To the beer, we're going to be adding some various spices that were apparently, according to Claire's video, quite popular in the Tudor era. These are some ground cloves. Half a teaspoon of ground cloves. Half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. And 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. Like that bottle, it's very Harry Potter. Alright, so there's all of our ingredients. We take that, we put it onto a high heat. We want to bring it up to a boil and then reduce it down to a simmer after 2 minutes. If you were to make this, Claire was saying in her recipe, for kids, like if you wanted this to be more of a fun little party Harry Potter situation, then let it boil for like a good solid 20 minutes to burn off all the alcohol. We're not going to do that. We're going to have this alcoholized. So bring it to a boil. 2 minutes later, turn it down to a simmer. There we go. That's it coming to a nice boil. So we'll just give it a little stir. It smells great. It's got that sort of mulled wine Christmas time kind of an aroma. I'm really looking forward to trying this out. But yeah, we'll just give that a couple minutes. Then we'll turn it down to a simmer and move on to the next item. Alright, it's at a good time to simmer now. I'm going to take it off the heat. Into another bowl, I'm going to take 5 egg yolks. Now, a couple of them broke, but whatever. It's not terribly pretty, but as long as it works. And our 200 grams of brown sugar just goes right on top. In her video, Claire actually mixed them up with this whisk. I'm not quite sure why she would have done it that way. I'm just following exactly her routine. Personally, I think you should just use a spoon for this. Now, it's worth noting, this is now kind of done. It looks almost like an ice cream or a caramel cream type of a consistency. I will totally confess, my wife actually got this working right because she's the professional chef, not me. So that's sort of what you want to look for. Now, before I add that, I'm going to put the heat on low and return our beer to that. And I'm going to spoon this in. Now, she says in the video, Claire does, you add it in, fine and dandy, and it's looking kind of weird. This is essentially, we're just going to cook this in for a while, let it thicken so that we actually end up with a very malty type of a beer here. Worth noting though, do not have it on very high of a heat because there is egg yolk in here, and if you have it on a high heat, you're going to end up scrambling your eggs. Now let me just get a spatula here, and we'll just make that look a little bit cleaner there. There we go. It's almost looking like chocolate milk now. There we go. We've been in about 5 minutes now, so all the mixtures are nicely in together. We've got a nice looking ale type of beer liquidy thing here. I'm kind of interested to try this out, but no, we have to now ruin this potentially by adding the butter. This is the part that really boggles my mind. We are about to make butter beer with real butter and real beer. I don't think this is going to go well, but you know what? Here we go. I'm just going to put the butter in. That's 100 grams. And we'll let it melt in there, good and solid, and then we've got butter beer, apparently. God knows what this is going to taste like. Anyway, she says let this warm along here for a good 5 minutes at least while all the butter melts into the beer. Alright, I've been whisking away now for about 10 minutes, letting it warm up, and it looks very much like beer. In fact, in Claire's video, she says, make sure it looks like milky tea, which in this case it does. So, I'm now going to take it off the heat and let it cool, reach room temperature or something. Okay, let's try it out. Anal Nathrach! And there is the butter beer. There we go. So yeah, it's looking, I mean, it's got a decent little head on it. It's very brown. It looks like chocolate milk. I know this won't come out well on the camera because there's a lot of brown here, but yeah, I'm thinking it looks kind of like chocolate milk. It has a little bit of a head. Now, admittedly, I had to give it a little whisk just to make it look somewhat beer-like. It's not quite like what your typical actual ale would have, but not too bad. Still kind of warmer than room temperature, but I think that's the way this is supposed to be drunk. So let's try this out. Okay, I'm a little hesitant to try out butter beer, but it's historically a real thing. Let's see what the Tudors were really into here. Oh, that's weird. God, I don't even know how to describe it. The good news is it's not like it's like overpoweringly full of butter. Surprisingly, those things we added at the beginning, the cloves and the nutmeg, are really coming through. For such small little quantities and such a huge vat of ale, I'm really getting that out of there. So, yeah. The original little swig I had of the ale, unimpacted by any other ingredients, I can sense about maybe a third of this tastes like that still. Then you've got a really strong cloves, nutmeg, gingery kind of effect in it there. And it's very smooth, like drinking thicker than a cream. In fact, a little bit like Guinness. Yeah, it goes down like Guinness, very, very smooth, but almost that flavor is weird. Not terribly sweet. You think with all that brown sugar in there, it would be like a very, very sweet drink. It's sweeter than the ale was, but it complements it nicely. Yeah, butter beer. Or sorry, I've been referring to it that because of the Harry Potter reference. It's technically buttered beer. It is beer that has been buttered, and I'm assuming the Tudors must have done this with other things, other kinds of food items, other drinks. Maybe they did it in their mulled wine, but the only thing I know is this buttered beer in the Anne Boleyn Files. It was the one that really struck me, and wow, what a weird flavor. Well, there we go. Yeah, not entirely sure how to really describe that, but it's nice. If I ever get butterscotch beer in like Potter World or something like that, it would be an interesting comparison. Yeah. Well, there we go. Experiment completed. So, until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.